Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of Bold Leaders in Learning. I am your co host, Brandon Busteed, the Chief Partnership Officer and Global Head of Learn Work Innovation at Kaplan. And I'll have my co host, Dientje, say hello before we kick things off.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dientje Francis-Lawrence, Kaplan's Global VP of and Head of Partnership Growth and Transformation.
Awesome. And we are super pumped today to be talking with Daniel Nivern, who is the co founder and CEO of Virtual Internships. Daniel, I've been following you guys for a while. I know we've kind of been, preaching to the choir in terms of the importance of college graduates leaving the college experience work ready. And obviously, one of the biggest drivers of that is having some kind of work experience, right? And whether we call that an internship, a co-op, there's obviously a lot of derivatives of that. But before we dive into some of the problems and things like that, tell us a little bit about virtual internships, the work you guys are doing. Would love to just hear more.
Yeah, thanks, guys, and thanks for having me. First of all, it's great to be with two such prestigious co-hosts, and I know you've been doing a lot of work in this space as well. So very excited on my side as well. So my journey in this space, and like you, Brandon, like you said, I've been passionate about this for years. I think now more than ever, but I have been saying that for a while as well. I mean, just to go back to my own background, I came out of Oxford University with a degree in French and German. And everybody said, wow, you've got a degree in French and German from Oxford. The world's your oyster. You're going to get every job. And actually, I didn't. And it's quite scary because everybody else seemed to be jumping into jobs at Goldman Sachs and McKinsey, which is great. But I didn't know what to do and didn't know how to apply for jobs, etc. So I went out to China and got some work experience in China teaching over there. And that sent me on a trajectory in this space. So previously founded a company called CLCC Asia, where we wanted to help students from the UK and the US and other locations to get internship experience in Asia. We thought Asia was a fast rising economy. We know a lot of Chinese students, for example, were coming to the UK and the US and wanted to redress that balance. And helped send over 10,000 students to do in-person internship programs in Asia, which was wonderful. But we always thought there was actually a bigger opportunity where we could actually have a much bigger impact. And that was by making this model and using the same model that we developed, but making it virtual. And by doing so, making it a much more global program so that a student anywhere around the world could get an internship with a company anywhere around the world. And so we could make it much more global, much more scalable, much more accessible, and perhaps crucially also mirror the future of work as we saw it. We were seeing reports from the World Economic Forum about the fourth industrial revolution and the future of work and the shift to online work. So back in 2018, we founded Virtual Internships with that in mind. And we've seen great traction, which brings us here today, running these programs, which are 1, 2, 3, or 4 month virtual internship programs where you can get remote work experience with a company anywhere around the world.
That's awesome. One of the follow-up questions I have before passing the baton to Dientje is that, you guys were obviously underway with this pre-pandemic. We've had tons of conversations about, what the pandemic has done, good, bad, and otherwise. Clearly, though, virtual internships was one of the things that a lot of employers had to turn to because they didn't have any other option. And obviously, students, on the other end, that was the case. How much has this accelerated your work, right? Do you see virtual internships as here to stay? Not just kind of a pandemic reaction. I'm just curious what you've learned in the years through this global pandemic.
No, it's a great question, Brandon. And it was always our hypothesis that people were going to be doing online upskilling and that companies were going to be accelerating towards remote work. It just happened a little quicker than we expected. And I think the big changes in the early days when we said, like, you can actually do most jobs remotely in some form. People were a little skeptical. Universities were a little skeptical. Some employers were a little skeptical. That's gone. We don't need to explain that actually work can be done virtually now. I'd say the technology around that has improved. So, those slightly spotty Zoom conversations or Skype conversations have now all improved, and there's different platforms. There's different project management platforms that can be used remotely. And in answer to the final question, Uh, I think we sort of started off in a world where we weren't sure if remote work was going to happen, and then it was everybody was in remote work, and everybody said that's going to be the future, and then everybody said we're not sure if it's now back to the office. I think the simple answer is they both will coexist, and everybody will be doing some form of remote work because even if you have an office job, you'll still take a day off or 3 hours off, and you'll work from home. And I think that's a great thing. So I think it increases optionality at all strands of the system. So I think it's here to stay for sure, whether that's in a purely remote format or whether that's in a hybrid format. But that's exciting for us as well.
I think one of the things that stands out to me is I too was a liberal arts major, by the way, when I got out. And like you, I taught for a little while. But I think back and I think it would have been a wonderful thing to have this. I do wonder, like, are there certain fields or certain majors that seem sort of more attracted to this kind of internship, or what does the makeup look like for your student base?
Yeah, so it really does cover a lot of sectors. On paper, we have 18 career fields, so they can range from engineering to healthcare, to digital marketing, law, etc. But I'd say the ones that seem to be the front runners, certainly computer science and IT, seems to be at the forefront. We do get a lot in finance as well, engineering, etc. But what I think is really exciting is it's not only helping people with remote work skills, which I think is critical. It's giving people soft skills, so communication, like we're doing right now. But also, it seems to be aligning with some of the jobs for the future. So we're doing a lot of programs in data analytics, digital marketing. We have some cybersecurity placements, all areas that I think are going to be critically important, both for countries and the macroeconomy status, for students, and also as well for corporates as well.
Yeah, well, one of the, going back to some of the data that has been troubling and concerning, I've been looking at this for a long time, both in my Gallup days and, since I've been at Kaplan. The vast majority of college graduates, this is US data, come out of college not having had any kind of internship or work experience where they were able to apply what they were learning in the classroom, right? It's actually about a third who are hitting that mark. So two-thirds are missing it, right? Which is to say that a lot of college universities, when I talk about this, they all will say, "Oh yeah, we offer internship programs," and so and okay, that's true. But what percentage of students are hitting the mark, right? It's been our failure to scale this. And I would say before that, it's been a failure to prioritize it because we do have examples of institutions that have taken it to great scale. You think of the Northeasterns of the world, the Drexels of the world, the co-op model, been around for 100 years. Literally every student there has one of these experiences, and those are large enrollment universities. I think one of the things I've been really impressed with virtual internships is that you guys have been able to take this to scale, right? You've been able to take it globally. And I would just love to hear you talk a little bit about how you've been able to get the employer engagement end of this, because that's usually the biggest, kind of stiff arm that I get when higher ed, engages in this conversation. They're like, well, we just can't get employers to participate. How are you guys cracking that code?
Brandon, we're so on the same page, by the way, and it's great to be talking with my people here. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's a global issue, by the way. The US for sure, 90% of graduates are coming out feeling that their university degree hasn't equipped them for the workplace. The UK is an even bleaker scenario. It was 16% in a recent survey. India as well, Indian graduates from engineering, only 22% had work integrated learning. There was a Wisconsin report where 67% of those who didn't do internships, it wasn't because they didn't want to, because they weren't able to. They couldn't get access to those internships over a 4-year degree. And I think that creates a huge problem. It creates a problem for the students because they're not as employable as they thought. It creates a skills gap, obviously, from the corporate side, which is a huge problem. And it creates an identity crisis for universities, to be quite honest, because if a 4-year degree with all that investment of time and cost and energy, etc., can't give you a job at the end of it, despite the amazing social interactions that you might build, that creates a huge identity crisis, and others will come in and fill that void if universities don't. So it is super important. I think you're right. In order to really solve it, you need to find a solution that is accessible, so every student can do it. It is scalable, and it can be done on a global basis, which hopefully virtual internships solves all of those things. How do we get employer engagement? We currently have over 12,000 employers who are participating in this. They can create more than one position at any given time, and that can be done over several periods of the year. So we're creating hundreds of thousands of opportunities, and that's adding year on year. I think what we've done is we've made it seamless for them to participate by building a platform where they can easily register and set up their profile, by helping them with the matching process so they get matched to a student who's looking for a job that they have, and likewise has the skill sets or desires to have the skill sets that they like. And then the platform itself guides both sides, both stakeholders through the process quite seamlessly. One of the main drivers, we did our research as to why they're doing it. The main driver is access to talent. And not just in a US context, actually, it's an entirely global context. So it could be a US company in Silicon Valley that is taking students for internships from our partner, Botho University in Botswana, and finding brilliant graduates out of Botswana in engineering, and they've already trialed these students. And likewise, it could be a company in Singapore that hasn't previously had access to a student in Northeastern or New York, and suddenly can trial them as well. So on a global basis, we're building these global talent pipelines, which again is great for the student, but also critically is really good for the company.
Can we talk a little bit more about what's, the benefit to the student? Because we do talk for employers for sure, placing and finding a job is and getting placed is really important for student and employer, but sticking to that role and growing at a company also, most of everybody's objective. Tell me a little bit about how you use coaching to help folks as they are in an internship. Some may be getting it, some may not be quite getting it. There are skills they need to grow and improve upon. Tell me more about how you might use coaching, because coaching we've found at Kaplan and elsewhere has been a really major factor at universities, for example, to helping students complete their programs. Even really strong students struggle. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel really bad for students, to be quite honest, because at the entry level, it's very competitive for them to get into jobs. I think 35% of job postings ask for 3 years, for entry-level jobs, ask for 3 years of work experience. And that goes up to 60% when you're in high-level IT jobs that a lot of people are looking at. So you end up in this vicious circle. Again, you've spent all of that time and energy trying to go through university, etc. And then you look at that job application, and it must be very demoralizing, to be quite honest. So we really need to solve this. I think what we do on the coaching side, so every program alongside the supervisor mentorship, which is actually really, really important, and our platform helps supervisors to mentor the students throughout the program. So again, connecting industry with the student and bringing industry to the classroom rather than classroom to the industry. Alongside that, we do have career coaches. So everybody gets a midway and an end of program career coach to talk about their experience, reflect on their experience, help the students to articulate what they've learned in their experience. We follow the NACE career readiness skills, so we're looking at it across the 8 career readiness metrics to see how they've evolved in their own personal opinion. And so we're helping them to articulate and start thinking about what they want. I think the other thing the program does is help students to understand what they might not want. So many people go into jobs, and once you start on a career trajectory, it can be hard to move off that. So better to embed that in your first year or second year or even your penultimate year or last year at university, rather than coming out in the panic that I came out into and jumping into the wrong career trajectory. So it can really help benefit in both of those two strands. What you want to do, you feel you have the skill set to do and the passion to do, and perhaps what you might not want to do.